Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza and Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. Today is another wonderful guest episode. You guys, we seriously get the best guests on here. We're absolutely so lucky with the people that we have in this industry. So today we are welcoming Karla Lim of Written Word Calligraphy. So Karla, go ahead and say hello.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here.
Karla, you are kind of a whiz of everything. So we're really excited to be talking to you because, I mean, you remind me a lot of like Cami in the fact that you're doing invitations, you're doing a little bit of products, you're doing some courses in education. So I feel like you kind of like mirror our lives in that way a lot. And we're excited to talk about that. So let me read Karla's official bio, you guys, so you can learn a little more about her. And then we'll move into the official questions. So Karla Lim of Written Word Calligraphy is a calligraphy educator and wedding invitation designer and calligraphy product creator based in Vancouver, Canada. She's a serial entrepreneur, guilty of juggling way too many things, and passionate about creating some pretty new packaging. In the realm of invitations, she's known for creating bespoke, minimal, and cohesive suites that feature her modern calligraphy style and illustrations. These invitations blend in the love story and the style of all her couples. She's been published in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, The Knot, Martha Stewart Weddings, Style Me Pretty, People Magazine, and so many others. Last year, she added author to her belt, a beginner calligraphy and projects book called Creative Calligraphy Made Easy. And if she's not writing beautiful words or creating content for her YouTube channel, seriously, guys, she does it all. You'll find her with her 3-year-old and hubby in some outdoor adventure, riding her Peloton, or cooking and baking a new dish. Karla, you're so much fun.
And so busy. I'm like, oh my Lanta, this is just even more than I expected. And you're a mom too. I didn't know that.
Yes, it's crazy. It took a while for sure to get back into the realm of being able to do a lot of things.
Do you just drink like 42 cups of coffee a day or what?
I don't drink coffee at
I knew
all.
it.
I
just give off a chill vibe.
No, it's just I just don't drink coffee. This crash gives me a crash completely. So I don't know if my energy level's already like a Energizer Bunny level, and coffee just like crash. I can't even have tea, like caffeinated tea.
Oh my gosh,
it just doesn't work. I'm like, some days I wish something worked.
I totally get that. I love coffee, but it does not sit well with me. So like I'm having my coffee today, really only in the afternoons. I can't do it in the morning or I'm like crazy. And Cammie's the one who's like drinking like 4 or 5 cups a day, like a crazy person. And I feel like, yeah, that totally happens to me, but I love it so much that it's hard to not drink it, especially when like Will and I just got a really fancy, fun coffee machine, like the bougie people we are. Not even, but we've been loving that. So I will let Cami go ahead and ask the first official question, and we're just going to get going because we have a lot of things to talk about today.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, obviously we have to ask this question, but how in the heck did you actually get started in calligraphy?
So, believe it or not, I started kind of getting into calligraphy because of Instagram. So Instagram was already around when I was starting out, but it was still like in the old like square format type of photos, like right at the beginning. I think it was around 2011. Sorry. Clearly, I'm not doing math well today. Yes, so 2011, I was on Instagram. It was like a rainy evening in Vancouver, and I just decided to, pick up calligraphy because one of my friends on Instagram, Fozzie, she was doing calligraphy, and I was just like, oh, how do you do this? Like, how does it all work? And she had her little blog and website, and I was just like, she was one of the first few that I chatted with. Molly Super Torp had already published her book at that point, and so that's what I picked up, and like that's kind of how I got introduced to the world of calligraphy.
I always think of Molly as like one of the godmothers of the industry.
Yeah.
She was like one of the great firsts. Her and Laura Hooper and some of these others, you know, like the very first Modern Calligraphy Summit,
Yes.
all those people that were like, oh my gosh. And I think, was Fozzie part of that at the time?
Yeah.
Fozzie was part of the first one. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, I actually renovated my place, like my studio, specifically for the summit too.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That is so funny. So that was like, okay, so we both took the summit. When was that? 2015 maybe?
At least, yeah.
I think
yeah, that's like
that.
when I don't know about Elizabeth, that's when I got into like everything too. I feel like so many in the industry were like kickstarted from that. It's just so cool.
Yeah, I renovated it because I was going to get filmed for the second one. The second summit. That's why I said my background needed to look good.
I love that. I love that little kick in the pants. You're like, well, we got to make it happen. It's going to be on film.
Is your studio out of your home?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I had kind of thought. And I know that's the case for a lot of us and a lot of our listeners too. So always good to know and fun. But you have, you have like you said, you're very, very passionate. So I know you have another business as well, and that has like a studio or warehouse. Can you like tell our listeners? Yeah, Larkin Ives.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that one. So typically, this is where I work because that's like I just love being able to work from home. But I do share that warehouse space with my other business. So the other business is called Larkin Ives. It's a vegan leather goods lifestyle brand. So mostly products and mostly e-commerce. And so it's just we need space for those products. They used to be in my garage, but now as the company grew, we just had essentially like 6 different little warehouses from all of our employees. You know, like the fulfillment girl had some, I had some, and my business partner had some, and so it was hard to do all of that. So earlier this year, we decided, you know what, let's go and rent a warehouse space, have everything inside, and all my written word supplies are there now too. So this is just the invitation design space essentially.
Okay. That totally makes sense. And it's very cool that you have 2 businesses. And obviously Cami and I love that, especially because we have 2 as well.
Yeah.
So it makes it really, really fun and really, really crazy. Okay. So you said that you kind of were getting into it back when you saw a lot of people on Instagram. Do you remember like the year you actually started your Instagram account? And do you remember like what did your work look like at the beginning? What were you posting? What were you talking about?
I think my account officially started in 2013 because prior to that, when I was kind of learning calligraphy, I was just posting it on my personal account.
Okay.
So I think that was around that time that I officially created like a separate account for it. But yes, definitely a lot of like rustic elements, like a lot of wood because that was so in at that time. And like lots of baby's breath flowers. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I was also in the midst of planning my own wedding, which was in 2014. So like a lot of like that kind of vibe for sure. And a lot of day of details as well, because I think most of us usually start off with local weddings. And that's kind of where I started too. Like a lot of local events, like seating charts definitely dominated a lot of my Instagram account before I decided to focus a lot more on the invitations front.
Yeah. So this was basically like a side hustle at that point, doing all those little day of details and building it up. Did you know you wanted to make it full time, or was it just kind of like happened by surprise for you?
I actually had no plans of going full time. I enjoyed being, you know, like working for a company and just doing it on the side. Like it was nice to have that extra income without having that pressure. But then my full-time job, you know, I was starting to hit like what do you call this? I was in my role for about 3 years already. And usually in the company I was in, usually you'd move around, and it's just that none of the roles were interesting to me. And I was like, getting a little bit bored. And so I like prayed and asked God, like, if if I applied for these next few jobs and none of them turned out, and I actually came to like the final interview for some of the roles, but it just didn't work out. And I'm like, okay, this is a sign. I'm going to quit at the end of the year. And so that's what happened.
So you would have been full-time. Like, what was your first day full-time then?
I honestly can't even remember.
Or like a year, I guess.
I think it was 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember years or days either, Karla. I'm just like, what that happened? I don't know. Elizabeth's like, it was this day at this time. You were standing here. I was there. I'm like, how do you remember these things? Like,
I don't know about the year and dates, yes, but like the general timing, I think, yeah.
So you and Cami are the same. Everything is just the other day. And I'm like, the other day as in 2 years ago or the other day as in last week?
Because and the answer is yes.
Yeah.
She just uses that to describe everything. That's the first thing you need to know about Cami. There's like no time. Yeah, I get that from it's so weird. I do get that from my great grandpa where he just was like so honed in and always knew dates and things like that. And Cami teases me about that all the time. Okay, so you didn't really intend to go full time, which is a really fun kind of different part of your story, because a lot of people I feel like are always hustling to make it full time. And something we've really been focusing on this year too is that it's okay for people who want to keep that corporate position and do a side hustle. Like that's totally okay to go that direction as well. And I think more people kind of are doing that for, like you said, the security, and then you're not worrying about insurance and like all the million other things. You kind of have that taken care of.
And I also find that I don't know, I guess did you both like do school like for business or creative or?
No.
No?
I went to journalism school, so it's kind of creative.
And I did a communications degree, which is like kind of the closest you could get without, I don't know, because there's like some marketing woven in there. It's like the closest thing you could get to maybe like business without actually being business. And I had a minor in creative writing. So
yeah,
very liberal arts education.
But you know what? But so I guess like probably this is just me and having like this bias of it, or maybe my parents gave me this bias that my parents were telling me not to go like do creative stuff in school because you're going to get graded for it and it'll curb your creativity. That's what they told me.
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a minor in illustration. And I took a couple of classes and I was like, nope, because I like doing my own thing way too much. I can't get graded for my art.
Yeah. And so I went to business school. I mean, but then, like I said, like I've always just been interested in business. And so, doing your creative work for business, like people don't realize that most of the time that even though you're doing the creative work, the client is still a part of that mix. Like you still, at the end of the day, will have to do, like, especially for example, for writing invitations, that it's still their wedding. Like it's not 100% creative freedom for you.
Yes,
so
that is such a good point. Yes. Yeah. You still have some boundaries in place, and it's not just like a free for all. Like it's not like, well, if you're an artist and you're just doing pieces and then selling your artwork, to a fine art gallery or something like that, that's totally different. But when you're working with like a client, you do have to like take some of their stuff into consideration too. So it's a whole other thing. It's more stressful.
I said for sure, because you have to, you're trying to make sure that it still reflects like your style and your look, and at the same time, like make the client happy because it's their wedding at the end of the day. You can't like force that this is what they like print out the invite, or like what ends up happening for me is like I just hide those invites that I don't ever want to show people.
Yes. And you know what, Karla, it's interesting that you bring that up because some people in the industry that I know were kind of talking about that a little bit last week of like, oh, a photographer was like, I showed up to this wedding and there was baby's breath and this is 2021. And they're like, what is happening? But she was like, but it paid super, super well. And a lot of people in the group were like, well, it might not be something you ever show, but if it pays well, like sometimes there is a little bit of that trade-off, But at the end of the day, it's like, obviously we're going to feel more creatively fulfilled if we're pursuing things that align with our style and our brand, which kind of actually leads me into my next question for you. Just because written word calligraphy, like every time I look at your YouTube videos, your website, your Instagram, there is just like the word alignment comes to mind. Like everything is totally fits into this brand and this look and this aesthetic. And so this might be hard for you to like think of or conceptualize, but I'm wondering if there was a specific point in your career where you kind of like fell onto the right path, quote unquote, or you're like, I unlocked what written word calligraphy is or what it's supposed to like look like. Can you talk a little bit about that thought process, like where you felt like your brand really blossomed into what it is today?
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to explain kind of how that brand came together because it was more organic than it was planned. It's funny because like I, as you guys know, I'm like building this business course too right now where I talked about how to create a cohesive brand. But I was telling people that when I was creating my brand, I didn't go through this extensive process of like, okay, like what are the feelings or like the thoughts that I want people to feel when they see my brand or like the colors and things like that. I kind of just fell into it based on like what I like or like what I wanted my brand to be perceived like. And for the longest time too, like my brand was more on the invitations front. It wasn't like the courses as well as the shop, right? So it was a lot more of the invitations where like the invitations kind of spoke my brand rather than like everything else aside from it. But definitely, I think the intention was always there that I wanted my work that whenever it was shown that it exuded like, timelessness and the minimalism and also like just the like a level of elegance to it. So whenever I do receive, say, photos from wedding planners or the photographers that I just don't like, and I say most of the time I take photos of my own work and I take photos of like my products and even the style of the branding photos I take is sometimes I use a timer for it or I take a photo of what I want and then I tell my assistant just take a photo, just snap it. I'm right here. This is the angle. This is where it needs to be. So I guess like that, having that clear vision, but how it came to that definitely came over like time and like knowing kind of, what I wanted and expressing that into words. I eventually created a brand guide. Like I went the other way, like created my brand first and then I went and created a brand guide and sent it because now I have designers under me to help me stay on track because there's no time for that. Yeah. So
I love that. I feel like Cami, you kind of did something similar.
Yeah, I totally had the same thing, Karla. Like I never could pull together like what my brand looked like or felt like. And honestly, I didn't have time. Like I was like, I don't have time to pull together stuff. I'll just let it happen. And then I just feel like I had a moment run, like an aha moment. And I like created a brand guide after I created like a brand. So now I'm like, oh, this is it. And it still feels right. It still fits. And I'm like, okay. But it is such a more organic process. And I think it can be like so much more beautiful and easy if you just let it figure itself out instead of trying to force it. Because that was what was really hard for me because I was like, I want it to be this. Why is it not this? Because I keep producing work like this. And there was a disconnect. And finally everything was like, okay, just stop trying to force it and it will happen. And it totally did.
Yeah. And the thing is too, it's like, I speak about it too in the course, is that the fact that things do change, right? Mm-hmm. Like for example, this last year, not a lot of us got to do a lot of wedding invitations and some of us might have pivoted to doing something else and that might change the approach to your brand too. And that's okay. And that's part of like, people evolving and that would probably start looking different. Like I never used to have so many photos of myself on my feed because I didn't felt like I needed to. And I don't know, never used to have this many videos in my feed either. Thanks to Instagram and their algorithms.
Oh gosh, but your videos are really beautiful and it's really fun when I'll come across one where like someone else is unboxing one of your products and you'll feature like a video from them, right? Like you've kind of started doing that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never had those kinds of videos before because like my wedding invitation clients weren't the type that would post it on Instagram and create like a unboxing video of their invitations. It would have to be me doing it.
Yes, totally different type of audience. You kind of mentioned this earlier, just like pivoting because of COVID and things happening. Did you in your business have to change anything or did you have any crazy challenges from that last year?
funny enough, I actually already wanted to launch the courses before it. So I actually had recorded them already before the COVID hit. So it was already part of the journey. I was just like, okay, this was going to happen. And then COVID happened. So thank goodness, because that was it kind of came full circle for me. And which is fine because I was already planned to step back a little bit from the wedding invitation front. I wanted to say, for example, only do like 20 weddings a year versus like whatever I had to do before, because it's just like I wanted to be able to have more time with my family as well. I found that the previous years with me being so busy as a mom that it was just impossible for me to work 16-hour days anymore.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'd say that probably is going to be pretty hard with a little one.
Yeah, and it's hard because, like, especially I would say, like, well, even last year was hard too. But like the year before that, like right after, like I had my little one, like, like the amount of wedding invitations I was still taking, and the amount of time. At the end of the day, something is going to give, right? It's either you or your sanity. So at some point I was definitely feeling a lot more anger or like frustration and just not having enough time. And being a mom is hard because, like somebody described it, it's like the ministry of interruptions, because you're so, as a designer, we're so used to like being able to focus, and being a mom, it's just like you're being distracted like every half an hour or less, even like you get 15 minutes. So you're suddenly, instead of getting a full day to design, you get 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So it's hard to stop. And so I was getting frustrated with that. So I was like, okay, I need to step back from like fully active design work, that if I can't continue like giving my full focus in it, take a step back from that and put the courses up front. And that was a decision we had made before the courses had started, like end of 2019, because I was writing a book at the same time.
Of course.
As we all do.
As we do.
I was going to say, Cami might have a lot more questions for you, which is up to you, Cami, because this episode does come out in November.
Oh, well then by all means, everyone will know that I'm pregnant by then. Yeah.
Yay!
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we'll have to do a whole follow-up episode on that.
Yeah. Or you can even just ask me.
I know.
I can let you know.
Soaking in, I'm like, okay, we're gonna need 10 minutes of time to do this, 15 minutes of time.
I actually went and interviewed a couple of calligraphy moms and asked them, how did you do? I talked to Mabel even. I was like, hey, how did you do it? Because I know that she actually took a complete break from it all too, just because it's just like,
it's funny because like Cami is still, at this point that we're recording this, has not publicly announced it. So it's funny because I feel like I can like remind her. I'm like, this won't come out till November.
I know. I was just thinking.
I can see her over there.
This is come out. Like I couldn't remember.
The wheels are turning. So I was like, if you want to ask Karla questions, you can ask her questions. This won't be public until later.
It's funny. It's like. There's two different types of people you ask where they're like, oh, you're not going to have any time. And people are like, you'll just get through it. It's going to be fine. Like, and I'm the type of person who's like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm going to open my store and have my separate space and keep going. And you just make it work. Like, I don't know, just make it work.
But I guess like what I didn't expect was right after I had Chase, like I actually experienced postpartum anxiety and I was pretty down. Like I'd never had that at all. So that was like not in the plan. Like I had planned to take a few months off and rest, but no, and suddenly it was like also like I felt like I was like at the rock bottom, and I tried to take medication for it, and it just didn't work. It actually made it worse, and so I started to go counseling. So I felt that my first year of being a mom was really hard because of that whole bit, because I don't think there's any other surgery or whatever in the world where your recovery plan is to take care of somebody else.
Yes.
It's like, normally it's like rest. No, it's like take care of a baby, figure out breastfeeding, and like,
you have no idea what to do.
Like, you're like, you go from like designing wedding invitations and getting featured on Harper's Bazaar, and the next day you're like a janitor, like you're taking care of
And you're scraping up like poop off the wall because you had a horrible accident, like, or your car seat or whatever.
Yeah. And instantly your Instagram feed is just all babies and all like their quotes and things like that. And you're Googling, is this normal? Is this poop color normal? How much crying is normal? And it was hard. So what ended up for me is like I had to hire a nanny for even though technically it was not the beginning part, they were just sleeping a lot, but I think it's just that all the hormones and that I didn't expect. Like I thought I was just I'll be fine, figure it out. But like the hormones and the anxiety,
just like a cascade of hormone roller coaster. You don't even know what's happening, right? Oh, at least that's what I feel. Yeah. So I guess I'll find
out. Okay, Karla, going back a little bit to kind of the product side of things, you guys have so many awesome products now, including your book, which is like technically a product. So when did you guys really start introducing all of that, and talk a little bit too about like your packaging, and because that's all so beautiful, just share all the things.
Oh yeah. So like I don't know. I think all of us tend to probably try to think of ways to grow our businesses. And we always think, oh, the grass is always greener on the other side. So you go in service and then you decide, you know what, maybe I should do some products. That way we can scale our business a little bit easier. And then we go into products and we realize that it costs a lot of money, or that it's actually also a lot of time, and dealing with like returns and shipping and all that stuff is also a lot of work. But anyway, so I went into products very first with wax seals, because that was kind of like the general thought of like wedding invitations. At that time, wax seals was one of the biggest things to put on the invitation. So there wasn't really a lot of calligraphy wax seals at that point in time. So that's when I first created my first line of them. And I decided to also like have a wholesale line with that for the wax seals. Then the calligraphy supply stuff like started when my workshop students started asking me for new things. So a lot of it kind of came through like just what my audience was looking for. So it wasn't so much like Karla full initiation, like, okay, I want to do something. So yeah, like the calligraphy practice pads as well as the pens, that was the supplies part initially, came from the workshop students, like wanting to have something to practice with after my in-person workshops, and being able to practice with that. And the pen came because like more people wanted to have like a fuller package. So the practice pads and the pen kind of made sense with that. But the shop only really grew, I would say, the same time with the online courses, because now I sold the supplies with the courses.
Oh, that's so smart. I love that.
The starter kit. So the starter kit went with the online courses kind of thing. And then now that's why I've been kind of building it, like following along the customer journey of like, okay, now you've got the starter kit. Maybe you really love calligraphy, you want to upgrade it. That's why we have like the nicer pens now, or like the gift set type of products, or like you can pair it with the practice pad type of thing. So I'm like kind of trying to follow along their journey in that.
Okay. Yeah. I have a question about the wax seals. Because I was just telling Cami yesterday, it's been this so touch and go for me. And who knows, like when this comes out in November, where I'll be, because that's another like 5 months away at this point. But I've had a line of wax seals as well since 2018. I've always sold them with a company, with Get Marked Co. They've been absolutely wonderful. Yeah. It's a great partnership and I've really loved it. And then I started to play around with the idea of like, what does this look like if I bring these in-house and try to wholesale them and do all of that stuff? And so, I went on Alibaba and I found a woman that I really liked and started talking to her. And I got the quote and everything. And then we got to the we did samples, we did everything. We got to the invoice stage and I totally found myself balking, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is like $5,500 of wax seal supplies. 1,000 of that is shipping, by the way, to like get stuff from overseas. And I totally like cooled my jets on that. And I just told her, I was like, I have to take a step back. I'm so sorry. I need to think about this for a while. Did you ever, I feel like I'm asking you to like coach me through this.
That's okay.
Did you ever get cold feet when you're going through that process? Like I was thinking of like ordering 1,000 of them at a time. Like what did that look like for you when you were kind of doing that? Because I just like, I don't know. I was just feeling all the things.
Oh yeah. No, I totally get it because I mean, yes, I do have international suppliers as well. And a lot of companies like these do require a lot of quantity because that's how they make money. You know, the beauty of like getting it from like say China is like, you know, their labor is extremely inexpensive. So they can afford to make like a lot of these things. But I must say from my experience with wax seals is that the demand for it is not really that large. And so to be honest with you, I've been trying to sell off my wax seals for the longest time. And the partnerships, it's not that. It's just because like, that's why you kind of have to keep coming up with new designs. Like it's harder to sell like 1,000 of the exact same design.
Yeah.
So it's smart to have like the partnerships, to be honest with you. A lot of people that tell me are like, Karla, is it better to have your own line? I think it depends. It depends on the material that you have. Like, for example, the wax seals, like the market is, there's not that many of us are as obsessed with wax seals as there are, say, for example, with paper right now, or like with notebooks or something, where like people can wholesale a lot more. So, for example, for myself, even when I'm reordering like certain like colors and stuff, they're usually just within like 50 to 100 pieces, like 1,000 pieces for one single design. It could take me years to get rid of.
Okay.
And especially so if you go in the letters are probably one of those things where I've been like, oh my goodness, why did I go through letters? Because letters are hard because wholesalers, it's a risk for them to carry the whole line. And so for them to reorder, it's hard. And actually in my other brand, we also had a monogram situation because we were in the pins. We were doing like monogram pins. And that's also like really hard because people, like it's just you're gonna have like a bazillion M's and then like 2 X's and
yeah, like the demand's not the same for all of them, but you can't not have some of the letters if you're gonna do it. Like
yeah.
So I would actually say it's great if you could partner with somebody like you said, like with Get Marked, like you know, people do like the artisaire ones as well, where they actually are the ones that are producing it, or you have the machine that makes it. Because you could get that machine that makes the wax seals, like the engraving on them, because yeah, like it's a little bit easier to manage. And like for example, like artisaire, they're the ones that make the wax seals and the wax seal colors. Because yeah, like quantity wise, like I think like a lot of people in the wedding industry wanted to get into the wax seals because of the fact that it was really popular. And it still is to a certain extent, but then I guess if you look at the customer journey of it, people are not going to go back to buy the exact same wax seal stamp. So you're going to look at the lifetime value of the customer, if they're going to come back for it or not. Like it's not a consumable. Like, you know, like really like the tea companies, like they sell and then you have to resell, you have to buy it again, like coffee, you know. It's nice for them because like you keep coming back to buy the same thing from them.
Yeah. I mean, that's all really good advice for me to try to like reframe some of it. And, you know, like I've had people tell me, my friend Nikisha, I think I've said this on an episode before, where she was like, sometimes when you try to control something, it controls you. And I think that's been like in my head a lot, because even though I'm doing a quantity of 1,000, it's split between my 12 designs by percentage of what has sold the best in the past 3 years. So it's like, I know that I kind of strategized around that, but then I was running into well, can I get these in shops? Do people even want to sell them wholesale? Is there even a demand for it? I just started asking so many questions. And I was like, and with what I currently have on my plate, is this smart to add another thing? So it's really helpful to hear your experience with that product specifically. Once you finish selling them, are you retiring that product line?
I did retire one of my lines unofficially. Like I just like lowered the price. But see, that's the point. Like it does like mess up your wholesalers if you try to retire a line.
Okay.
Because now what are they going to do with your line? Or like they're going to have like a whole bunch of stuff. So I didn't even think about that when I was going to retire it. Because like this girl, you know, like she had like purchased it not too long ago before I decided to retire it. But I still think like if it is something, if it's just if people are already ordering your specific ones, and that you're keeping it, and then that's okay. 5,500 is not a incredible investment.
I know. That's what Cami probably would say too. Cami's
yeah, I'm always like, just do it. I also like, I'm just a dive headfirst into everything and like figure it out.
Yeah. If it was, so we've had investments before that are in the 100,000s, then those ones I would think about.
Oh my gosh.
That's stressful.
Yeah, because that just means a lot more money. And then also the thing is too, is like whenever you order from China, you will have to account for the fact that there will be damage.
Yeah.
You will have to QC. There will be, 5% or so, and their return policy isn't great. So most of the time they would maybe negotiate with you to say like, I'll do it 5%, like I'll fix your stuff in the next order.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
Yeah, and you're like, great, now I have to order again.
Yeah. It almost had me just like rethinking things on so many levels of, maybe I can go back to like my partners at Get Marked Co. and talk to them about like, how can we make this more sustainable long-term, this relationship? Like, can I send you guys custom packaging? Can we do things a little different fulfillment wise to make it feel a little more custom without me having to, I don't know, like rely on their branding and like their look specifically. But yeah, that opens some doors, and that just like helps me too. Hopefully anyone listening isn't like bored by me just asking Karla my wax seal questions. I kind of just like also Cami and I are taking you on lots of rabbit trails from things we want to learn. So you did mention, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let Cami ask a question just so we can get back on track.
Yes. Okay. I want to talk about packaging because I also love really good packaging, and yours is like delicious. Like I want to eat it. Like it's so good.
Seriously though, it's like,
I just love that you really prioritize that. And I feel like I'm always stressing to our audience, like, you guys, the packaging is so important. And like, yours is like next level. But can you just talk about like your thought process with the packaging and like why you decided to go like the fancy route?
The fancy route? Because like I don't know. It's just such a big part of like my personality. It's like definitely more the aesthetic and the brand like selfishness.
I totally get that. It's like, I'm not doing it if it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it just has to look good. The unboxing experience has to look great, and I want people to receive my product and go like, that gasp.
Yes.
Like, that is part of what I want people to have, and I want them to feel that they paid for like this, that it's worth it, and that it's a full experience that when you get it from me, So that's definitely like the driving force of it. Of like, I want it to be part of like the full brand experience, and that every piece is intentional. That that I put a lot of love and effort in each piece, and I think for me at least, that's the way I express love. I'm a gifter. Also, like gifting is my
Yes.
love language.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love that. I think people can get hung up on the fact that like, oh, this packaging will cost so much extra in the product, but I'm like, but it takes your product to another level, like so you have to like factor that into obviously pricing and all that jazz, but it does take your brand into a new market.
Yeah, and I mean, there's many ways to do product packaging without it like breaking the bank,
right?
And that's why you have to roll it in some way, shape, or form. Either it's in your product pricing or in your shipping and handling in some way, shape, or form.
A lot of people don't realize that you're allowed to mark up shipping. Like, you don't have to charge the exact $7.95 priority mail rate. You can work in a couple dollars there. I remember when my dad had a warehouse when I was younger, he did that for a little bit. They actually sold toys. So like Bob the Builder, Thomas the Tank Engine, JJ the Jet Plane, all those good things from when we were kids. And he told me once, he was like, oh yeah, we make money on shipping. Like we don't charge the exact amount, especially because you can sometimes you can like work out special rates with your shippers and things like that.
Yeah, I think Shopify even has a thing where you can like add on $1 to any shipping cost for like shipping handling, and it just will automatically add $1 to the shipping cost for you, or however much you want to add on. So it's like seamlessly integrated.
Yeah, because like, dude, it still takes time to make a label, to put the box itself or the packaging, the outside packaging, like you having to drop it off if you need to, like, because like for us here in Canada, or Canada Post, and we don't have USPS here, obviously, but I use a system that brings it down to the States and uses the USPS system.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool because it helps with the pricing, obviously, because Canada Post pricing is ridiculous. Like our smallest package is $16.
Oh my gosh! So are most of your customers in the US then?
Yeah, I would say about like 70%.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't even know that was an option with like being able to have that in Canada. I thought you just had to use Canada Post or whatever.
Our system, no. And it's also faster because by the time they bring it down, and within the US, things are usually within like, 3 to 5 days, I'd say, to ship within. Whereas if it had to cross the border like manually, it would take like at least 2 weeks, I think.
It's incredible because I know that people in the US, we like to gripe about USPS a lot and the headaches they cause us. But I keep thinking about it. I'll randomly think about it and I'll be like, this is like the most efficient, probably like best government institution in a way. When you think about how quickly they can get things places, it's crazy. Yeah. Like sending my brother's wedding invitations and like 2 days later, people were getting theirs across the country. I'm like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
So USPS is pretty great, you guys, honestly.
Yeah. I know, yes, we can complain a lot about it. If you've lost the package, yes, it's unfortunate. It's very hard to contact them, really.
Yeah.
It might show up in the next couple of days.
It might show up, and for the most part, they are great. Yeah, like just like the 1% chance when something goes wrong, then we're like, we hate them. But for the rest of the time, they're great. Like, I love it. I literally consider them like an extra employee of my business. Like my mailman, I'm like, Tony, what's up? You are officially part of my team. Like,
exactly. Yeah. So like bringing it there. So that's still time, right? Like all of this is, and like if you use a fulfillment center, like even if you use Amazon as like, you ever sold on Amazon, they do charge for fulfillment, and it's at least $4. So technically, you could mark up your shipping by $4 because of all the cost of the packaging, the time you create a label. So even you charge yourself $1 to make a label.
Like, yeah, because the label, they cost money too. People forget about the cost of labels and all that stuff.
And sometimes when you're printing the label, like in a label printer, like skips a label or something,
and it gives you like 20 at a time, and you're like, oh my gosh, what?
Or like it's like doesn't print in the right spot. People don't see that; they just see these unboxing videos. I mean, us packing videos of it magically appearing, but it's not like the stupid label printers. Like.
I know. Mine is so sassy. They get so mad. I don't know. Mine will just, oh my gosh. One time, Karla, my label thing, like suck the label back in, but it kept going and it like wrapped all the way around itself. And it was like, I had to use like a razor blade. I was like cutting little pieces out and like pulling stuff out with tweezers for like an hour. And I was just like cursing at this thing. I was about to just buy a new one and I finally like figured it out, but it just like got so bad. And it made this sound that sounded like it was from the seventh circle of hell. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, but it's fine now. It's doing great. So we've had some time.
Yeah, okay. And whenever those things happen, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to charge more this week for shipping. Just kidding.
Someone's paying for this and it's not going to be me.
Additional stress.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing. Of course, I've not done that, but it's definitely something I've considered if like more things have made our shipping like more like of a problem.
For your products, Karla, are you selling through like Shopify? So does it automatically change between the Canadian dollar and US dollar and then like international currency? What does that look like for you? Because I know you're shipping all around the world, right? Like if somebody bought something in Europe, they could get it from you.
Yeah. So I am in the midst of moving to Shopify. Believe it or not, I'm not on Shopify. Okay. I'm in the midst of it. So currently I'm on Squarespace, and it's because Written Word was not an e-commerce shop for the longest time.
How have you lasted this long? Because Cammie was like, I give up. It was like 6 months in. She's like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, Squarespace got me.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I was on Shopify a long time ago when I had my wax seals the first time. It was on there, but Shopify was like ancient at that time. Didn't have anything. Didn't have any features. I think it was like 2016 or something. So it was terrible. I shut it down. And Squarespace. Oh, and at that point in time, I also like my shop was primarily the wedding invitations and semi-custom suites, and it still is now. And at that point, Shopify couldn't handle multiple variants. Didn't have apps. Like
so you couldn't even do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I took it off Shopify and just focused on Squarespace for a little bit because I had WordPress before that. I had WordPress ecom, which was terrible as well at that point in time. But yeah, so I was on Squarespace for the longest time, and I have Kajabi for my online courses, which has like all the other features I needed. And then, so now I'm in the process of moving finally to Shopify because I moved my other business to Shopify like 2 years ago, and I just didn't. Honestly, okay, I have love and hate in Shopify too because of all the apps that you need to.
Yeah, I know.
It costs like 5 times more than.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, this is such a good deal. And then you're like, oh, wait, I need an app to do this thing I need. And you're like, well, I got to pay for that. But it's just like, it's like customizable. So I don't know. Yeah. Love, hate.
Yeah, no, I totally get why it's good for ecom, but it's definitely a lot more. Like it's Squarespace has made itself like for me at least usable enough for what I needed at that point in time, and so for the price, yes, it's great for portfolio, great for like wedding invites type of business. If it was like your sole focus, I definitely think it's usable and it's what you'll need because like writing a blog post on Shopify. It's like, are we back in WordPress? Like, why do we need another app to make?
Why do we have to like? Decent? Code in images. Like I don't understand.
Or a button. You need to code in a button.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so will your semi-custom line, will that also be on Shopify now? Oh, okay. That's
now
that's
we can work on it now. Like, the variants.
Yeah.
Okay, Karla, you're obviously like kind of doing it all, which is incredible. So we want to talk a little bit about how you have built your team and who you have helping you. Before I get there though, because I just realized I still have another thing to ask you about products. Can your are your products found in like retail shops worldwide?
Yeah. So my line pretty much is like wholesale. So it has a wholesale line to it. So it's either I've approached people or people have approached me. I'm also on Fair.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have an agency to represent me. No.
Yeah. That's totally fine. Like Cammie doesn't have an agency.
Yeah. I'm just on Fair. It's been awesome. Fair and Abound. and then just reaching out and people reaching out to you.
I mean, Shopify has a new one called
Handshake
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the agency is kind of like fair because it will take a percentage, but because we are on the other brand, but it's better for if you have a bigger line or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I do feel bad for wholesale agents because that I feel like that field is getting disrupted, by fair and things like that, because you can kind of take the middleman out.
During COVID.
Yes, especially then if people are trying to cut costs or they just want the ease of use or whatever. Okay, now I can talk. Now I can ask you questions about kind of like building your team. So do you have a team of people or employees other than yourself who are behind the scenes with you? And what's the first thing you decided to outsource to someone else?
Fulfillment. My first one was when I was still doing primarily wedding invitations. It was just my assistant. So she was just helping me assemble. So she was like a crafting goddess. Like I could just like give her something and then she'll know how to tie it. I don't have to teach her. So she was like my assistant in terms of like, assembling things, responding to the initial emails. She's definitely an all-rounder type person, studio manager type, where help me answer emails, help me assemble the invitations. Because I mean, we don't have invitations in the studio like all the time. At that time, it was maybe like 2 days a week I would have it. But the rest of the time should be answering like the customer service emails, or like the fielding the first line at least, like, just like templates and stuff, and the fulfillment of the orders. And at that time, there was not that many orders to fulfill. It's just the wax seals. So like shipping them wasn't a ton. And so the next one was the fulfillment assistant. The moment when we started growing, once I started having the practice pads and stuff, and then I also started the other business, the Lark and Ives businesses. So we started sharing employees. So the fulfillment girl was now fulfilling for both brands. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just said that's so interesting that you share employees.
I do. I have to, because like, I mean, that way they have a longer hours with us. Because I would like them to not have too many part-time jobs, because I want them to be able to focus on our brand.
That's smart.
Yes, for sure.
Last year, I also hired a coach to support me on the online courses.
Okay.
So that way somebody that knows how to do calligraphy could also help me answer questions that, like, it doesn't have to be me answering all the questions all the time, all the homework, everything. So she helps me answer all of that stuff aside from myself. And late last year, I decided to hire a graphic designer for the first time in my life. I'd never done that before. I'd always just designed for myself.
Okay.
But yeah, because it was just because my other brand. So this is another shared one, the graphic designer, because on the other side of the business, Lark and Ives, they always need some new creative or whatever, and I just don't have enough capacity to do that. And every now and then, I'm just like, I need somebody to just like make this pretty, and I just don't have time for it. So with the brand guides and stuff, so she just implements whatever the brand guide is on those things.
Okay. Smart.
Yeah,
that's actually brilliant. I want a graphic designer.
Yeah, because like you're used to like building it all on your own. I'm like, like for example, like those nice pins on Pinterest, like the ones that free download or whatever. I'm like, I don't have time to make these pins in 3 different looks and feels so that they have 3 different pins. I'm like, here, can you make some pretty content with this picture? And this is the content. Here's the keywords. And then she'll just make 20 different ones. And then that's it. I don't have to do it.
It's great. Yeah.
So, but it's stuff that I can assign to somebody, right? Like, so I have all the photos. I have like general sense of what it needs to be. Then it's just that. So, and then this year I've just hired this other girl. So she's my marketing assistant now. So marketing was never a big part of my business before, when in the wedding invitation front, because it was so much more than invitations. But now with the courses and the store, then I needed to have somebody else to help me repurpose my content. So her job is to repurpose whatever I have. So like, okay, I have posted on Instagram, then she'll go on TikTok, and then she'll go on a Pinterest, and then she'll go on Facebook, and then she'll help me interact. So it's like a social media marketing repurposer to help me support, like multiply my efforts so that I could have time with my family and that I'm not burnt out doing everything else. And yeah. And I could focus on strategy. I'm still a primary designer. I still have to deal with all the custom clients and stuff like that. But the other things that I could delegate at least goes into the team.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. For sure. Like I'm in the process now about to hire my first fulfillment person. And I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. Like I actually think I'm going to hire two people. Good. I was like going to just do one. Now I'm like, I think I'm going to do two.
Yes, Cami, this is amazing because then you can have the whole week like covered.
I know. Well, I think one person, this person could actually work the whole week, but I think I just want two there at the same time as well. So I'm like, okay, why not? I mean, we'll see. So
you're doing it, so might as well do it.
I mean, go big or go home. That's how we run over here. So
yeah, and also,
Karla, and especially with the mat leave.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, it's going to be better to have two, especially because I'm going to be opening part of this. I just rented out a new studio space, Karla, so a little backstory. Yeah, I know. And it has like an area that I can use for a brick and mortar. So because it has that, I'm obviously going to do that because I'm going to make everything harder on myself. So I was like, well, now I'm going to open a brick and mortar and the studio and baby. So let's go.
Yeah. No, do it. Seriously, before baby, I did everything too. So yes, you should do everything before the baby comes. And then when the baby comes, and then you just deal with it.
Yeah. I was like, I'll deal with it when they come here. And I have like my own little private office in there. And I'm like, I'll just put like my little baby stuff here so and they can chill here. And it's going to be great. I'll wear my little baby in the wrap. Let's go.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm so excited for Cami because it's just going to like take everything to a whole new level. I've been begging her for forever. She probably got annoyed with me. At one point, I was like, I just have to stop bothering her about it.
About
getting a space and like hiring someone.
It's hard to find a good space, honestly.
It's so hard to find.
Yeah.
The right person.
It's hard to find the right person. It's hard to find a space. They're either like ginormous warehouses where you're like, this is too much and it'll cost me an arm and a leg to like air condition this place and I don't need 40-foot ceilings. Or it's like, oh, here's a little tiny office space. And I'm like, I need something like in between.
Right.
But also that won't make me feel depressed if I'm going here. So, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love too that you have all the social media being like repurposed in different ways. I think that's so smart because that stuff takes a really long time to do everything. And that's something that like Cami and I have talked about a little bit, even with Biz Birthday Bash. Like we don't leverage Pinterest super well, but we have like more than 100 podcast episodes now. And I'm like, that would be so great to get on Pinterest, but maybe we have to find someone to help us because she and I are not about to be making those graphics anytime soon. Like, no, thank you.
I'm not making 20 pins from one image. That would take me all day.
Yeah, right? But if it was like, you know, you can even just get them to buy like a Canva template or something. Somebody can make it. And then I told her make 5 templates. And then just switch out the picture.
And like go for it. Switch out the picture and the headline, go.
Yeah. I'm like, just change the picture. So I said, make one with 2 images, make one with 3 images, and then make one with just like 2 different versions with 1 image.
Yes.
And then just switch it all out.
And go.
Change the font, something.
Yes. I think that would be super fun to do. All right, Cami, what other things do we have to ask?
I think are we kind of wrapped up and I'll ask like our usual last question?
Yeah, I mean,
unless you have more questions. I mean, we could talk to Karla for like 1,000 days, but you know.
I know.
I feel like we need to hang out. Like, I mean, I rarely get to chat with like amazing business owners like you too. So
this has been really, really fun to have you on. But so our final question is typically, what does the rest of 2021 look like for you? Or like, what are your big goals coming up that you have for yourself in the next couple of years?
next couple of years?
Well, we can do just 1 year. You can do 2. It's kind of an open-ended question. Just like what's next on the horizon for written word calligraphy?
Yeah, very open-ended, especially because this will air like at the closer to the end of the year. So yeah, just tell us what's next, and tell our audience about your courses too. Don't forget.
Yeah, well, definitely. I'm gonna wrap up the calligraphy courses academy world. So my goal, I told my husband, give me 2 years to launch all of these courses, because that way, like I, give myself like the time to, film them, create them, and launch them, and because I will open them up, close them at any time, kind of thing. But there's going to be 4 courses now in total. So this last course is launching in August. I'm excited because this is going to be the finale of the journey, right? People are beginners. They have the beginner course, the intermediate course with like designing their own style, the invitation design course. And now this one's the last one's a calligraphy business Kickstarter one, like kind of what takes to start a business type of thing. And then once that launches, I'm going to be very happy. And then of course I decided to rejig the beginner course.
Of course.
Because after running the beginner course for a year and a half now, and prior to this, I hadn't really done a lot of online courses aside from like the Modern Calligraphy Summit. So it's very different. Like I found that teaching an online course in calligraphy is so different from an in-person one. The type of questions they ask and the problems that they encounter in the 90 days that I support them in is very different from the 1 day that they get with me. So I decided to rejig that course so that it has all more of the troubleshooting and all the like the problems that they encounter. So that one's relaunching in January. So it extended I thought I was going to be done with the courses. So that's the next plan. I am still thinking of launching new products in the line, because that's the thing about like having an e-commerce business, like at least from my perspective, I don't know. I wish I could say that you don't ever have to launch new products, but you do.
Yep. Cami knows that full well now.
Yeah, you're like, I have 500 SKUs, but everyone's like, what's new? And I'm like, just get these, okay? I'll come up with something new.
Like why don't you just choose from what I already have?
Yeah, it's like
no, like you kind of have to keep coming new things, and that's the thing too. Wholesalers want new things. They like seeing the new tag. Sometimes I even just put a new tag even though it's been there. It's just
refresh it, change the picture.
Refresh it, change the picture. Like even on Fair, they would put it up there if you update your product. Yeah. I would even delete it and then just re-upload. It's just because that's how they so anyway.
She just threw her hands up in the air. For those of you who can't see, she was just like, whatever.
Yeah. Because all of us are trying to look for like ways to optimize our business to work less, but we ended up working more because we're so passionate about our stuff, right? And so that's why. But yes, yeah. So definitely thinking of new products. I was like toying with this idea of like finding a way to make another slider writer, because everybody asks me every time. I'm like, why is nobody making it? Because it takes so much time and effort to make something like this. Like I don't even know how I have to get a 3D artist to draw it again.
Yeah.
Like
I don't even know where you begin with that, but I can see you doing it. So
and making it prettier, a little prettier.
Dude, they're ugly.
They're really ugly. I can't remember.
They were really ugly.
Do you remember why they said they stopped making them? Was it the production side or?
I don't know. Yeah. So, okay. So I guess I have one more question then, Karla. Okay. So we have courses, we have invitations and products. Do you feel like one of these 3 things you're like feel the most passionate about? Like one that you're like, I'm going to go deeper in this one, or are you just like, no, I want to do all of them all the time?
I don't know. Like after all of this craziness, after 2021 is done, I probably want to step back and like really think about it. I have been like, I feel like this past 2 years has been so deep into the courses, and I want to like, think about like my next direction, or like keep it status quo at least for a little bit. Because I do love like I don't think I can pull back from wedding invitations completely, but I do want to like say rejig it. Maybe I'll have a new semi-custom line or I don't know. I have no idea. Or have another baby.
Don't understand that.
Is this an announcement? I'm just kidding.
No, it is not.
Okay.
But we have been thinking about it. And that's why, like, if that's the case, then maybe I'll take a break for a little bit. Like, I'll keep things status quo. And then think about what would be the next baby after that, like next business baby, not like baby.
Yeah, business baby, and then regular baby, and all the babies. So
yeah, there are seasons. Right. There are seasons for everything, and everything doesn't have to be like big, new, and exciting all the time. For Cami and I, for birthday bash this year, after just like all the craziness of 2020, like 2021, we thought, oh, we're gonna do another summit, we're gonna do this or that, and then it was kind of like, no, this is just about maintaining right now and keeping people interested in the things we currently have, and then we can maybe think about some more like bigger things. Like I was brainstorming this morning for like, what could we push out real quick before Cami's baby comes? What can we introduce in the new year? Because I told her, I was like, look, I know you're not the planner. Like I'm more of the planner. So I'm just going to tell you right now that you're taking 3 months off Biz Birthday Bash. That's going to be like your maternity leave. And she was like, oh, okay. And I was like, telling her all this stuff as if I, had basically decided it for her. Because when I asked, as soon as she told me that she was pregnant, which I hope that we share that video with people eventually because it's so cute and funny. There's no audio, but it's really sweet because we're FaceTiming. And the first thing I was like, okay, so like, what's your maternity going to look like? What's your maternity leave? What's this and that? And she's like, I don't know any of this. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Plan for 3 months. Plan for 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to like not look at my inbox for 3 months or anything like that. Like,
yes.
I think it's impossible. Like we love our businesses too much. Like it's okay to look.
Yeah.
Just like just don't let it like stress you out.
Yeah.
Or like, like you're doing your plan right now. You're hiring people. So
right. And it's like, I can't just be like, all right, see y'all later. See you in 3 months. And like not look at anything. Like, how is that going to work?
Oh, well, yeah. That's what I meant. I meant that I'm like giving her, like, if you can't look at anything Biz Birthday Bash for 3 months, that's fine. I don't know what it'll look like on the Cami Monet side for her.
I don't know.
You'll probably be a lot more like involved over there. But I was like, your maternity leave, like from us, our business, like you have 3 months, so take it.
Elizabeth's the HR manager here. So.
Hey.
Oh,
yeah, totally.
So.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Karla, where can people find you? So like name your website and Instagram. If your courses are a different site URL, like tell us all the things.
Yes. So the main website is writtenwordcalligraphy.com. It'll link you to everything else. But if you do want to go specifically to the courses, it's writtenwordacademy.com. And my Instagram is writtenwordcalligraphy. I know it's a mouthful.
And everyone probably follows you already. So, but if you don't, you're missing out, you guys.
I know. Truly. This has been such a joy. It's been so fun. I mean, we're well over an hour and it doesn't even feel like it. We could talk for another hour.
I know. I totally could.
All right, Cami, do you want to do housekeeping for us today?
Sure thing. Okay, guys. Well, obviously, if you loved hearing from Karla and all the things, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. It helps us bring on other amazing folks like her to share all the wisdom. So if you love this episode, it is your turn to leave a review. So that is everybody. Go leave a review. And then if you have more questions for us, you can go to bizbirthdaybash.com/Q&Cake and submit them there. We will answer them on our Q&Cake episodes. Super duper fun. And of course, take a screenshot if you're listening, post it to Instagram stories, tag us at bizbirthdaybash and at Written Word Calligraphy so we know you're listening, and share the good news of all these amazing calligraphers. Okay, go do it. We love you guys so much.
All right, Karla, thanks for joining. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Bye.
We will talk to you next week. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys. Seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best, you guys. Everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.